Welcome to the Legal Navigator webinar. I'm your host, Rebecca from Law Training Centre. I want to say thank you very much for everyone joining us today in collaboration with STADIO Higher Education, when this webinar will be discussing how South Africans can qualify as licensed conveyancers in England and Wales. I want to say a special thanks to Dr. Judith and STADIO for helping to facilitate and put together this session. I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dino Dullabh, co-founder of Law Training Centre and Access Law Clinic. Dino has been a leading voice and a strong advocate for offering aspiring legal professionals a clear path and the right support to qualify through all major routes of law. Dino, along with his wife and co-founder Eve, bring a personal connection to today's session. Having both studied and graduated in South Africa themselves, they've experienced firsthand the challenges of progressing their legal careers in the UK, such as unqualified qualification or exemptions, or amongst many other barriers. So this has actually fueled their passion for supporting and providing alternative pathways to legal practice and to empower people from all backgrounds with the knowledge and skills to achieve their career goals. But without further ado, I will hand you over to Dino, who will give you more information and share details on the CLC conveyancing route and how to take steps toward qualification. Over to you, Dino.
Wow, thank you, Rebecca. That's very kind of you. And hearing you talk about South Africa brings back a lot, actually. And thank you, Dr. Judith, for having us. It's a real pleasure. I never thought when I was in law school at Rhodes University 20-something years ago, less than 30, but more than 20 years ago, I would be in a position to be able to share this type of information with everybody in South Africa. So firstly, thank you all for coming today. I believe it's lovely weather down there. It's we're joining you from a very wet and cold England, so we're very happy to be inside doing this rather than there's nowhere to go outside at the moment. So thank you for taking the time to join us. Let me start off by saying there's never been a more exciting time to qualify as a lawyer in the United Kingdom. There's also never been more choice and flexibility than there is today. And it's in many ways, the amount of choice and flexibility is almost overwhelming for new entrants. And that's what we're here to do, to demystify all of these and put forward the ones that are going to work best for people in different situations. I often get asked, what's the best one to do? And really the question actually is, what is the best one that fits your circumstance? Because we have so much choice in the UK. And the reason we have so much choice is the legal industry is changing rapidly, and the UK is at the forefront of that. And these changes bring really exciting opportunities for those looking to enter. You're able to qualify on your own terms. Things have changed so much that the flexibility that's possible now is unheard of, not even 10 years ago. Now, I myself have experienced it, and I've witnessed thousands of people facing huge barriers to enter law. And that's why I'm really passionate about the CLC route as one of the many that we offer, because it offers such a flexible and practical route, yet it's highly respected and an option that allows you to become an authorized person in probate and property law. So you can do one or the other or both. With that, let's get started and get into the meat of tonight's session. So what do we do at the Law Training Centre? Well, we're an accredited training provider for the Council for Licensed Conveyancers, that's the CLC, and we offer their online diplomas, which are at level 4 and at level 6. Level 4 is what we call first-year university level, and level 6 is third-year university level. It roughly translates, if you did a direct translation to South Africa, it's largely the same. We're also accredited by the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, which offer multiple pathways to qualify as paralegals all the way through to lawyers in various practice areas. The National Association of Licensed Paralegals is another accreditor of ours. And we deliver the SQE preparation courses. This is the new route to qualify as a solicitor of England and Wales. And on top of that, one that we are particularly proud of is the Faculty Office of the Archbishop of Canterbury. This is the oldest legal regulator in the world. Their roots go back over 500 years. And it is the Archbishop that regulates the notary profession in England and Wales. And if you do choose to become a notary public in England and Wales, you will get a parchment, an actual parchment with a wax seal from the Archbishop. And I think half the people who become notaries do it for that reason alone. It's a great portfolio career option to have later on as a fully qualified lawyer as well. Very interesting session. Alongside that, we also run an online pro bono law clinic, and this is for work experience as well as QWE provision and confirmation for the SQE route, which we will go into in another session, another interesting route. So yeah, now that I've said all of that, yeah, we are very busy. But the reason we offer all of this choice is I've often seen it where people progress through their career over the years, their pathways change, and they need more flexibility because their career goals change or their confidence levels go up, and they decide they want to progress further, or they may be offered a promotion in the company, and actually the route that they're following won't be the right fit. So these barriers are no longer so restrictive, and that's because everything we do is fully online and under one roof. So if you needed to switch a qualification or dual qualify, we can facilitate that much easier by having it under one roof. But why do we do what we do? And this is a really important part about us, and I think something that sets us apart in so many ways from any other law school I've ever interacted with. And that's because even my amazing wife and our founder, we met in law school in Rhodes University in Grahamstown in South Africa a long time ago. And she's from Greece, I was from South Africa. And as a young couple, we wanted to be financially independent. And because we were studying English common law in our law degrees, something that really didn't sit with me very well as a child of the new South Africa, bearing in mind, I was only 14 in 1994. I was quite infuriated that we had all this English law in New South Africa when we had our new constitution. It's only when I came here that I really understood the richness and the tapestry of the English legal system. But we faced a lot of barriers. One of those was being told that our South African law degree, which is very heavily based on English common law at that time, was not valid, and we had to repeat the entire LLB from scratch at a massive cost. And even back then, it was more than £10,000 per year just for the tuition, let alone the living costs. Nowadays, it's up to nearly £100,000 with living costs, full-time campus study for an LLB. So look, we're not afraid of hard work. We grew up in South Africa, but unjust barriers, that shouldn't be a part of the deal to enter law. And that's really what lit our fire. So of particular importance to us was the ability to offer choice and the right advice, because when we entered law school, and in our defense, we didn't have the internet. I mean, I only had the internet in 1998 when I went to university, and you had to go to a computer lab and sit there and wait and click wait and loading and all of this stuff. So we had to accept what was told to us as the way to qualify. And I was only ever told about two ways, attorney or advocate. That's it. I was never told about anything else. And what I've seen is too many people following a pathway that's been prescribed to them, but with little thought to how the person's actually going to qualify. It's very clear what you need to do, what exams you need to pass, but not a lot of thought of how will they actually qualify and have a career with this. And this is where the licensed conveyancer route and probate practitioner route, the CLC route, really stands out, because not only does it recognize law degrees from South Africa and other jurisdictions based on English common law, it even offers routes for people without prior legal education. And it allows people from all backgrounds to qualify and thrive in the profession. So our goal is to empower people to make the right choice. And tonight's focus is on the CLC route. Now, this is the really exciting bit for me, who we do this for. It's something I never thought even possible. Even 10 years ago when we started the Law Training Center, I didn't realize what was possible. But with the regulatory changes and the way the industry's changed, we've been able to help thousands of people. And 7 in 10 of these people are female, most of them with caring responsibilities in the form of children. Many of the men that we train are also working dads and have family commitments. And that means without online study, their dreams to become lawyers simply would become a reality. There's just too much to juggle, and they'd be stuck at a plateau. And today, the reality for many of our alumni is this: they qualified in the area of law that they want to practice in, and they landed their dream job. Some of them have set up their own law firms. Some of them are running their own consultancies. Some are working offshore in Dubai and in other jurisdictions, Cayman Islands and places like this. London, Manchester, Liverpool, whatever it is their dream is, they've been able to achieve. And in what is a very short time in legal years, 10 years for English law is a blink of an eye, really. Many of them are now in positions of leadership, and they're choosing to invest in their staff and train their staff through the online means that they experience. So what we've actually seen is quite an astounding stat, in that 6 out of 10 of the people who study with us on the licensed conveyancing qualification are in fact sponsored by their firm. That means the firm is paying for them to study the qualification whilst they're working at the firm. So they're in a job, they're earning, and they're being sponsored to study and qualify. This is a huge increase. This is a 50% increase in the last 2 years. It's been a lot of changes post-pandemic, also a greater acceptance, but it's a big signal by arguably the most important part of the sector, the employers themselves, that they value the qualification and are willing to actually invest in it themselves and sponsor their staff to qualify it. Now, let's talk about our partnership with Stadio. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm incredibly honored to be here today, virtually with you in South Africa. I'd love to be down there, to be honest, but I'm virtually there. And to talk to you about qualifying in law. And this has come about thanks to a really forward-thinking mindset of STADIO Higher Education as a whole, but particularly the law school. All the interactions I've had with all the senior leadership and everybody else within Stadio's law school has been incredible. Something that I really wish was around when I was studying law. I had a great experience. I loved my law school, but what you guys are doing down there is just on another scale, another level. It's fantastic. And the idea behind our collaboration, and something we've developed over the last couple of years, has been to offer something that where Law Training Centre in the UK, working with Stadio down in Africa, to be able to offer you, the students, the learners, all the professional legal qualifications of England and Wales, but bridge that gap, because they've always been there, but they've required you to relocate, get visas, huge expense, and so on, all these other barriers that keep the majority of people out of the profession. We're here to bridge that gap, and we're here to make access possible to these UK qualifications and allow South African students to qualify without having to relocate. And this is all because of the flexible online learning and the methodology. And Stadio embraced this early on as an institution, which is preparing learners for the next step to the postgraduate qualifications that we do. It's, of course, also a vastly more cost-effective way. All the routes we offer cost less than 1 year's university tuition fees at a typical UK university. It's usually more affordable. And on top of that, it opens doors to work in the UK legal sector, or particularly people who are looking to do cross-border work. There's a lot of a huge increase in cross-border work, and South Africans investing in the UK and Europeans investing in South Africa, or often Dubai is in the middle, Mauritius is another hotspot. There's just so much now that's going on cross-border wise. So all this, our combined expertise is here to give you, the learners, a real competitive edge in what is a competitive market. In any country you go to, law is a competitive market. So that's what we're here to do, give you a real competitive edge over the rest. Now, you've heard me mention the CLC. What does it actually mean? They are the Council for Licensed Conveyancers. And interestingly, it was set up by an act of parliament. And it came about as a private member's bill. I'm not going to go and give you an English legal system lecture now about what is a private member's bill, but in a very brief nutshell, you can lobby your member of parliament to bring a bill forward, and a member of parliament is allowed to bring a bill in front of parliament. And this bill was chosen, and it was successful. And the reason it was successful was the government recognized that they need to create greater recognition for property lawyers and probate lawyers. So this is back in 1985. So we're talking a full 40 years ago. 40, right? 40 years ago. I was 5 then. Anyway, now the CLC, the council, sets the standards both academically and professionally, and they also regulate licensed conveyancers and the probate practitioners. Now, it's really important to note that licensed conveyancers and probate practitioners both are officially recognized as what we call in the UK an authorized person. An authorized person is the term that the Legal Services Act gives to people who are allowed to conduct reserved activities. So in South Africa, you only have attorneys, conveyancers who are extra qualified attorneys, and advocates. In England and Wales, we have licensed conveyancers, chartered legal executives, notary publics, solicitors, barristers, certain types of accountants, and a couple of other niche people who are authorized persons to conduct regulated legal activities. Despite that, it's a tiny percentage of the population that has this privilege, but licensed conveyancers and probate practitioners fall under that category. And the professional qualification is globally recognized. So it's not just about UK practice. Whilst it's focused on UK practice, the standards are respected worldwide just because of the weight that the council carries. So now that we've got an idea of what the Council for Licensed Conveyancers is at a higher level, let's look at how do you actually qualify, the practical bits. Well, in essence, there's 4 key steps. Firstly, the academic prerequisites, the educational prerequisites are incredibly flexible. There's actually no previous knowledge required because there's no formal education prerequisites. So anybody can start without prior legal qualifications. And that said, we're pleased to announce that South African law graduates actually get a full exemption based on their South African law degree, provided it's taught in English and assessed in English. And I'll delve into that in a little bit more detail. But what you do with the education requirements is if you're not exempt from level 4, you'll complete the level 4 diploma. And the level 4 diploma can give you what's called technician status. So it's recognition of a type of paralegal status, a specific one under the Council for Licensed Conveyancers. And the level 6 diploma is the one that allows you to progress and then become a fully qualified conveyancer and be an authorized person. Now, along with this, you need to complete your 1,200 hours of practical work experience over the course of 2 years. And that's when you'll gain your hands-on experience in conveyancing. This is, I guess, what you'd call articles in South Africa. It's a lot more flexible than articles. It can be gained at up to 4 different employers. There's a very clear guide of what you need to cover. It's specifically focused on conveyancing or probate, depending which one you're qualifying in. And typically, you're employed in a law firm in a role either as a trainee conveyancer, a paralegal, a conveyancing assistant. There's various titles that we have in the UK. There's a lot of flexibility around how people are employed around that. So it opens up that bottleneck, that articles bottleneck. We had this problem in the UK before, which was the training contract, and qualifications like this have broken that bottleneck, which stopped people qualifying. And then, of course, final step is character and suitability checks like you would need to do for any legal qualification. So what will you study? Briefly, really interesting stuff is what I will say, of course. I think it is. And I think most people on this call will probably agree. I hope so, because otherwise law is it's going to be a difficult uphill struggle, but it's really interesting stuff. And the qualification is designed to give you a real good grounding on the important aspects of the why things are done in practice. So your English legal system, your land law, your contract law. But at the same time, it's quite tightly focused in onto conveyancing and accounts, which are really important units for running your own law firm, having a position of authority. And when you go into level 6, you get into really advanced topics like landlord and tenant law, dealing with leasehold. It's a very interesting and complex area in English law, very old area of English law. We have leases dating back hundreds of years. And you also learn more about managing client monies and office accounts and so on, which is really important for running your own firm. All of what you learn in this qualification is practical to daily practice, but gives you that underpinning knowledge as well. Just need to expand on the exemptions that we talked about. We're really proud of achieving for our learners from Commonwealth countries these exemptions, because these exemptions didn't exist when we came to England and Wales. And in a nutshell, for a South African learner, if you hold an LLB from South Africa that is taught and assessed in English, you more than likely will be fully exempt from level 4. Other legal qualifications that are can be assessed at either level 4 or level 6 may be considered for qualifications, but by far the one I see the most of coming through from South Africa are LLBs from a real range of institutions, from traditional universities to online universities. And so far, we've not had a South African LLB that's been turned away for an exemption. So that's a real big step forward for our South African learners. Saves years and time and tons of money as well. So let's talk about the investment, the money. How much does it cost? Well, the CLC route is by far a more cost-effective option to traditional university routes, where typically for home students in the UK, fees start at anything from £9,500 to £12,500 a year. That fee can be double the amount for overseas students coming to the UK, depending on the institution that you go to. So the level 4 diplomas are around £2,975, and the level 6 diplomas are around £2,475. I didn't want to do the maths because the exchange rate of around 23.8, I think it is today, makes it look really scary in South African rands. I know when I came over, I think the rand was, it was 5 rand to the pound. Things have changed a lot since then. But all told, with given rates of inflation and that, this is still by far the most effective, cost-effective route to qualify. And the nice thing about this is a really simple fee. It's really budget friendly because the exams are included, but also a resit. So if you need a resit, you don't pass for whatever reason the first time. And the majority of learners, by far the majority, pass on their first time. But if you didn't, a resit's actually included with no extra cost. There's also no membership fees, which makes it much more budget friendly because a lot of qualifications have additional membership fees when you're a student member, which can be a bit of a difficult burden when you're juggling other expenses. So it's really streamlined and cost-wise, budget-friendly. Even when you qualify and actually have to apply, the fees are lower than all the other regulators in the UK market as well. So it gives you, the South African learner, an opportunity to enter the UK market at a far lower cost and quicker time than most. Now, why qualify as a probate practitioner or conveyancer, apart from the fact that maybe you like property law? Well, demand. The UK property market and probate is booming. The numbers are staggering. We have over 30 million people owning a home in the UK. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. That's 30 million people owning homes, needing a conveyance at least once in their life. Probate is an area where we have nearly 250,000 grants of probate in a year. That's nearly 1,000 grants of probate per working day in the UK. That's the scale of the market. And this is not new. It's been like this for some time, and it's only getting greater. UK inheritance tax laws are getting more complex. The government is brilliant at creating work for lawyers in the UK. So there's just a chronic shortage. Of the nearly 800 firms we work with, almost every single one is recruiting in either conveyancing, probate, or both at this current time. There's a huge, huge demand for the need. Not only that, there's really, I've touched on the flexibility, but it also allows you to work either as an employed conveyancer or a consultant, self-employed, or even run your own practice later on. And of course, it's specialized and focused exclusively on property and probate, so there's no distraction from other subject areas. It allows you to focus in, and this is an important point for people who may be juggling other work commitments or family commitments and so on. And of course, global recognition. It's an English qualification that's well regarded the world over, and one that we've seen a lot of offshoring businesses based in Dubai, for example, hiring licensed conveyancers, working in their offices and their back offices and so on. Plus, we actually have a firm who set up offices in South Africa after trialing remote work with South African lawyers who are now going through the qualification process with us. It may or may not have something to do with the love of golf in England, and obviously there's great golf courses in South Africa, but the quality of work and the service they've experienced from lawyers in South Africa has actually exceeded all their expectations, to the point where one of the firms we work with is actually setting up offices down there. They've gone a step beyond just remote working, and we expect this trend to continue because post-pandemic, the world's realized remote working, well, you could be in London, you could be in Surrey, you could be in Manchester. Well, why couldn't you be in Cape Town? Some exciting things happening. So thank you. I'll stop there. I could go on for the rest of the night, but I won't. I'll stop over there, and thank you for your time so far, and say, please let us know your questions. I'd be delighted to answer them. Fire away.
Thank you very much, Dino. That was very insightful. I've opened the chat now, so if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. So we've got a question, Dino.
Yes.
How long does it typically take to qualify as a licensed conveyancer, and can I work while studying?
Of course. So typically, on average, the typical learner profile for us is someone who's in work, juggling life and other commitments. And they're typically taking around 1 year per level 4 diploma and 1 year per level 6 diploma. Level 6 between 12 to 18 months. Although it's 3 units, it's a bit meaty. People have a bit more time on their hands. I think the record we've had at a full-time student was 1 year for both. We're not saying you need to do it in 1 year, but you can. The pace is entirely set by you. We offer 2 years access per diploma. So you've got up to 2 years to finish that in. And if you think you needed more time than that, you can stagger the access to the course over a longer period. That's not very common, but the flexibility is there. But typically what we tend to find people is getting through it as quickly as they possibly can, because we operate a roll-on, roll-off system. There's no fixed exam windows. You can book the exam whenever you're ready. Oh, and by the way, the exams are fully online. They can be taken from anywhere, be it from work, be it from home. They are remotely secured through an online proctoring system. So you can book and take your exams. And yes, most of our learners work while studying the qualification, either in law. By far, the majority are in law, but we do have some who are not even in law, working alongside in insurance, other areas like that, banking, all sorts of fields actually studying this as well. Hope that answers the question.
Great, thanks. So, someone has asked, do I need to complete my articles in South Africa before I can start with the conveyancing examinations through LTC?
Okay. Great question, that. Your articles in South Africa, whether you have them or not, doesn't impact on your ability to become a licensed conveyancer under the Council for Licensed Conveyancers. If you do have articles, it's a great thing to complete. The work experience that you need under the CLC's requirements is England and Wales conveyancing or probate, depending which area you're going on. So whilst they wouldn't count any of that unless it was for an English law firm, which is operating in South Africa, which may be, you would need to have UK experience. However, the practical skills, the client care skills, the managing client monies, the ability to understand regulation, the all-roundedness that you get from your articles are usually transferable, directly transferable, in fact, to English law. And I'm pleased to say the standards that are set by South African law firms are incredibly high, and that's really impressed UK employers, exceeded their expectations. So if you have articles or you're going to get them, great, stick with them. They're absolutely valuable in having. But if you don't have articles, that's not a barrier at all to qualifying down this route. Hopefully that answers the question. That's a really interesting one. So I guess someone's on the cusp of getting articles maybe and looking at how they're going to dual qualify. It's a powerful combination, being dual qualified in this way.
Brilliant. So we have another question. Does my work experience need to be based only in the UK, or can I complete qualifying work experience in South Africa?
Okay. So the location of the work experience is not actually relevant. The fact is the type of work experience. So the work experience needs to be England and Wales conveyancing or England and Wales probate. Whether you're doing that remotely from Cape Town for an English firm based in Surrey, or whether you're doing that in Dubai for an English firm that has offices there and England and Wales, or another jurisdiction, or you're doing it in England because you really enjoy our long winters. It's the quality and the type of work that actually matters. So as long as it's under a UK regulated law firm, and it doesn't have to be regulated by the Council for Licensed Conveyancers, by the way, it can be a firm of solicitors. That's by far the majority of where our UK learners are studying. It can be done. And this doesn't just apply to overseas-based students, by the way. We have lots of UK students who are based, Dubai is a particular hotspot. I know some are thinking about South Africa as well as a place to base themselves and work remotely, because we don't even call it working remotely now. The new term is work from anywhere, is what law firms are offering over here. So yes, you can be based. You can have your cake and eat it. Let's put it that way. You can have your South African quality of life and your South African living costs, and have a UK role and come over as and when this is possible.
Great. So we've got another one here. Can I be both? Can I both be an admitted attorney in South Africa whilst also being a licensed conveyancer in England and Wales, or will I have to be placed on the non-practicing role?
Really interesting question. I'm glad to say on the UK side, things have moved forward. very far from that. In the UK, dual qualified is not a problem. So, for example, we have people who are solicitors and licensed conveyancers, or chartered legal executives and licensed conveyancers. We also, almost all the notary publics in England and Wales were a solicitor or are a solicitor or a barrister. There's no restriction. You can maintain practice certificates with all the UK regulators. There's various reasons why that's a good idea. It depends on areas of practice. For example, certain regulators attract better insurance, professional indemnity insurance rates, and other reasons. Mortgage lending panels, for example, some may favor licensed conveyancers. So there's a number of strategic business advantages as to why people choose that route. As for the South African bar, I can't answer that question. I would like to think they would be open to allowing a person to practice. I think the one thing they would all regulators would want to make certain of is that you aren't holding yourself out to be a South African attorney practicing in UK when you're not, and vice versa. That's something the regulators would want to make sure that you know it's very clear where you are practicing and how you're practicing and what basis you're conducting work. A classic example is one where we have notary publics here who are also solicitors. And when they engage you, they make it very clear that you're engaging me in my capacity as a notary public, not as my capacity as solicitor. That's all covered in client care skills and client care letters and things like that. So yes, you can be, certainly on the UK side. I would like to hope that that's the case. And perhaps we'll put that on our list of to-dos to do a bit of digging and see if we can find out the answer to that question and get back later to that. It's a great question. Thank you.
You have another one. Does the examination include coursework or practical training, or is it only a formal assessment?
Okay, so that's really nice, good thinking. You're thinking about how does this actually work? The answer is both. At level 4, there are 4 assessments which are coursework based, and you have 28 days to complete the assignment. The final one, the accounts one, is a timed exam. At level 6, there are timed exams in the traditional sense. Now, we recognize that assessment methods, some people excel at written exams and under time pressure and other people don't. And that's not necessarily a great indicator of whether you're going to be a great lawyer, because that's not really how real life works and real practice works. So where the CLC's moved along is the exams are in fact open book. People are allowed their notes because we know that lawyers don't need to know everything, but they need to know how to access the information quickly. And if you don't know what you're doing, you'll spend all the time looking in the book and you'll never finish the exam anyway. So it's not making it easier, but it's making it more realistic in how people can do it. The other thing we do make sure, and that's something that we do, that we've taken upon ourselves as part of the education process, is mock exams. So we have a lot of learners who haven't taken an exam for a while, 5 or 10 years. So it's daunting to be able to sit an exam again. We make it accessible and encourage learners to take mock exams under time conditions and then get marked feedback so they can see, I'm ready, or I'm off the mark. So we cater for everybody's sort of needs. So if you're worried about, frankly, I haven't sat an exam in 10 years, how am I going to do it? We cater for that. And by the way, they're online and you're able to use your computer. But if you do like using your pen instead, there can be a reasonable adjustment for written exams as well.
Great.
Hopefully that answers the question. Thanks.
Thanks, Dino. Does LTC provide online support up until the conclusion of the examination?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're with you from enrollment all the way, well, pre-enrollment is where our journey starts with our learner. And that means advising what is the correct pathway to study, first of all. So first contact is usually with our student services team, who will be looking at your prior learning, checking if you have any exemptions, advising what's the right one, checking with you what's the right course. If needed, tutor calls at that point, academic experts, whatever it's needed to make the right choice. Then you get onto the course, you go through the exams, and typically, learners are with us for a period of years, and you're all the way through to your very final exam. and we still maintain contact post exams with our learners. That's a part that we love to do and love to see how our learners progress. Many of our learners come back to give guest lectures or advertise jobs or actually make hires from us. But to answer your question, it's not just, I think I know where this question might be coming from. The licensed conveyancer qualification is not an external exam. It's an exam run by us as the training provider on behalf of the awarding body. So we're with you all the way through the actual exam itself, including Law Training Center does the marking and assessing of you and giving you the feedback. So you're not then sent off. Say, I think perhaps this person is familiar with the QLTS route, where you're with your training provider, but the exam is a completely separate thing and you're on your own with the exam provider. No, it's all under one roof. And that's something that we really like. It takes a lot of pressure off people. It doesn't make it any easier. I have to say, law is the law, and landlord and tenant law is still landlord and tenant law. But being able to give people feedback, prepare them properly, is a big point. So hopefully that answers that question. Again, another interesting question. Thank you.
Mm. And even if you're not, just to add on, even if you're not familiar with the format of taking exams online, perhaps you're somebody who is used to just doing the traditional physical on paper exam, we've designed our course to incorporate an element where we actually give you practice exams before you actually take the original online proctored. So you have a whole day of preparation where your tutor will also give you comprehensive feedback and guide you through the process as well. So it will never be the situation of where you're just blindsided or have, limited support. You would get that unlimited
Yeah.
support guidance throughout the entire process.
That's a good point, Rebecca. I think the other point I should probably mention at this point, now that I think about it, is the tech support provided by our own actual team.
Yeah.
So even though it's online remote proctored, it's run at hours when the Law Training Center is fully open and operational, so that there is tech support that's based for heavy tech issues never used. Our support's more things like how do we get the exam set up, all of that. And our tech team will go through everything with you, including the simple things like let's do a test on your Wi-Fi, get an Ethernet cable, how to plug it in, dealing with issues that Google Chromebooks or whether it's an Apple Mac or latest Microsoft 12 or an old Microsoft XP. I think there isn't a tech issue they haven't seen under the sun. But one way or the other, we are South African founders here, so we do understand the words make a plan. That's how we get things done here.
Brilliant, thank you. So, can I work as a licensed conveyancer immediately after qualifying through the CLC, or are there any additional requirements or restrictions for international graduates?
Okay, so there's no differentiation between an international graduate and an English or Welsh graduate as far as the qualification is concerned. If you've done the exams, you've met the requirements, and you've obtained your 1,200 hours of practical work experience, you're in exactly the same position as an English and Welsh graduate. Of course, if you were to come to England and Wales, there's a consideration around, well, how do you get here in terms of visas and all of those things. Pleased to say that the UK points-based immigration system is nothing like the Canadian, US, or Australian points-based immigration system. It's in fact become simpler and more cost-effective than it actually ever was for, we used to call it third-party country nationals. So we had the EU, which had separate rules for working in England and Wales, and then third country nationals. Now, that's what South Africa used to be called. Now it's just immigration. The point system is really simple. You need to demonstrate that you understand English and you qualify to English at level 6. So having have to be in English, could be in any, obviously this licensed conveyancer qualification proves that. You need to have an actual job. It doesn't have to be a neuroscientist or anything on a special list. And the big change has been for the employers. It's been simpler for employers now to hire overseas and at a lower cost than it used to be before Brexit. And that news is trickling down into law firms. And this is why we're seeing law firms hiring in from South Africa, from Asia, even from Canada is another Commonwealth jurisdiction where we've got people coming in too. So you're on equal footing as far as academics and qualifications are concerned, to answer that question.
Thank you very much, everybody. Feel free to send us an email or give us a call if you want to, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. But thank you everyone for attending. It was a pleasure having you all this evening. Thank you again, Dr. Judith, and thank you, Dino, for that really insightful presentation. Very, very useful information. We appreciate
Thank you both. Thank you both. And thank you all for attending. Hope you all have a great evening. Thank you. See you again soon.